The recommendations you have made, that there must be maybe an expanded proclamation, that the AG must do certain audits, I support them. And then let me follow up with some of the inputs I want to make on this matter. Firstly, I want to say that the issue of RAF, I think, has been a test of this committee. It is a test of oversight. It's a case study which would have to be reviewed and studied at some point in the academic spaces. And there are certain elephants in the room that need to be dealt with. The noise in most cases starts when the parties in opposition or representatives of parties in opposition start to articulate their view. And in saying that, I must also say you have made a very good effort in remaining objective on the matter, despite a feeling that I would probably have, that maybe parties in government have agreed on a position around the matter. In some way, that's my own insinuation, which may be wrong. So, and as a member of Umkhonto Wesizwe Party, I don't stand here believing that RAF is performing optimally, or that there's proper governance in RAF, or even administration for that matter. Maybe let me start there, because I hold the view that there's a total collapse of all institutions, and RAF is no exception. That is SAA, that's DENEL, that's public institutions, Department of Education, higher education, agriculture, health, everything, having sat here for the past year. There are institutions with disclaimers for over 5 consecutive terms. But the issue of RAF seems to have a peculiar approach. It seems to have two ends that wants to exacerbate their position on it. One end appearing to be saying it is the worst form of administration that has ever been seen. The CEO must go. It must be worked around and all of that. And another end maybe appearing to say the contrary, to say the CEO is doing exceptionally well. These issues that are raised here, for example, around the filling of vacancies, around certain allegations and all of that, are a concern, a serious concern. We have seen them also in other institutions. There's nothing new that we are seeing in RAF which we have not seen in other institutions, except maybe court cases and all of that, which are peculiar to the business that RAF is doing. However, we have not been seen to be taking as much radical approach to how they need to be addressed as we seem to be doing. So what I'm trying to narrate is driving at a point where it is important that there is a structure legislated by government to do investigations, so that we don't try to turn this committee into an investigative forum or a commission of some sort. Because we do not have all the, I think Honorable Skosana did mention that, we do not have enough time to say, let's sit over 2 months, call in whistleblowers, interrogate evidence, arrive at some subjective and scientific truths, or probability at least, of what is the situation. But we can formulate an opinion that there is a dire situation and an urgent need for a government intervention. But that intervention must be an objective intervention. There have been many inconsistencies, Chair, as you indicate, and I would mention one also, because I want us to, as we move forward and as we try to ensure that the public continues to have confidence in our objectivity to do our fiduciary responsibility and governance oversight, to be as objective as we can. Because one example is the issue that we ventilated in the last sitting, where there was a deputy minister here, where the RAF board came and said they made a decision to put the CEO on special leave. We educated them about the difference between special leave and suspension. The deputy minister insisted that a special leave was the right decision, and that even the board, as a legal person that sits in the board. A few days after, in fact, I even cautioned the deputy minister in that meeting, and I said, I feel like you are responding more on issues that are decisions of the board, not your decision, because you don't sit in the board. Well, he defended himself, and I let it slide. But 3 days after, they say they consulted lawyers and arrived at a decision of a suspension. And that says, in the process, there is some level of interference. It may be minor, it may not be as or deliberate, for example, or for that matter, but there may be levels of even interference from people outside board and executive. Because we speak about exactly a subject that we tell the minister, the deputy minister, the board and management that it was a wrong decision. And there's an insistence on it, and then 3 days after, it is corrected. And now that tells you that we are not operating in good faith. So there are many irregularities. Others, we are highlighting them as having came from the CEO. Others were exposed in the transport committee from the board, and admissions were made. But in many other instances also, we've sat here with the Department of Military Veterans where the acting deputy director said verbatimly that there is interference from political people. That is why she can't run the department. We have never taken any other decision after that. We'll probably consider it as a committee in future, but it stands. As we speak, she's there, acting, having the interference and unable to run the department. And it's business as usual from our side. But we're ventilating and we're taking hours on RAF matter. And I'm just saying, let's try to find a way in which we take this to some people who are with the competency to ventilate the matters. And when we then come back to deal with the reports, try and be as objective as possible. From a revolutionary approach as a political person, there are certain principled issues that I agree with, which the CEO is implementing at RAF. But also from a procedural point, I may also agree that you do not implement before you get the approval of achieving a strategic decision. So, for example, if you say that the compliance with the accounting standards are saying ABC, whilst you may be correct in saying that there should not be that, but in the meantime you comply. I'm saying, for example, there is objectivity. That is beside me understanding that the system has got flaws. And we are challenging the system as a party in opposition. We disagree with it in totality, including the monopoly industries and all of that. So let's try not to cloud our political motives with our administrative responsibilities and try to maintain an objective posture so that at least we can be able to take the public into confidence and remain being a competent committee to hold these institutions accountable. Otherwise, at some point, I would be tempted to arrive at a position that we may not be competent objectively. We may not be at an objective point as a committee that we can make decisions or recommendations on this particular matter because of how inconsistent we have not been on worse institutions that we have seen here. Administratively, I don't think RAF is the worst, having sat here for the past year. But we have taken 30 times the hours on the issue of RAF, and because of these other issues. So I support your recommendations. We pack it, we allow for those proclamations to go on with someone, and also in bringing people to the committee, and I think everyone that would have summoned, if we arrive at that point, which is the last bullet, second last bullet, would have to be under oath, I think. Board has got issues, management has got issues, and we need them under oath and consider what if there are breaches of information that comes from that meeting. Otherwise, that is my position, Chair, and an appeal to you, to the committee, to say, in as much as possible, no matter how heated the discussion is, at least let us try to be consistent. And let us try, I respect the silence as I'm speaking, you know, because I've also been silent when everyone else was speaking. I think we can still achieve that kind of cordiality, and also we can be able to be consistent even with fellow disciplinarians like Kosana who know the rules, and apply it consistently when it's members of their own government who are doing that, and maintain the decorum of the meeting. Thank you, Chair.